Here is the assembly video for the Phoenix Props and 7 Chambers Starkiller. This is the retail box as you will get it. See the logos on the bottom as well as web addresses. So we will pop this open, take a look at what we see inside. So inside you're going to have all your parts. All the tools are included in the box you will get. The only thing you will need to provide on your own is glue. There are a few parts that are glued together because there was no other functional way to make that happen. So we'll go through the parts in the box, take everything out. First thing you're going to see is the nameplate. Comes with a convenient little T-base. Slip it in. Done. The saber itself comes partially assembled with the end cap, one end cap on, and a pair of ears also attached. Next, we have our 4 fins here. These fins will be attached here. This is one of the parts that needs to be glued. Next up, we have one little baggie. This little baggie has 2 screws in it. These 2 screws are little flat-headed semi-countersink screws. Oh, make sure you can see them. And these are used to attach this block from the inside, here and here. I'll show you when we get into it. We'll put these together. Next baggie up, we have the bag made with the cover tech knob. You will get the cover tag as well as the cylinder head screw to screw in. Next up is a little bag containing the crystal and then the bar for the crystal chamber as well. Last but not least in this package, you're going to have the black thumb screw for retaining the crystal chamber on the top. We have an aluminum block also in the crystal chamber piece. And 2 small M3 grub screws. One is going to be blade retention and the other one will be a lower chamber retention. Now in the rest of the box, you can see nicely laid out here, are some different pieces. You have a second set of ears. You can replace the ones that come with it as you like. It's a single screw that pops out and you put the other set of ears on. Also, our 3 chamber rods. These will be fit into the crystal chamber as we assemble it. You have a second pommel here. This one is sound vented. You'll have a sound vented one and a non-vented one. So you're just going to choose which one you want to place on the saber when you're putting it together. Because some people like copper, some people like aluminum. These are the lower rings for the saber. So these go back here. See, they attach onto here, and we'll show you how to attach those on when we do the assembly. So you can, if you like the copper, and this is uncoated copper, it will weather. It will start to change colors over time. And then you have the aluminum ones, and this is the same aluminum as the rest of the saber. So you choose which look you like the most. Next up is the lower crystal chamber. This is where the crystal fits in. Crystal can be put in at the very end. Simply fits in here. You can choose to glue it in or maybe add some additional, like a piece of tape here to make it press fit in. That's up to you. If you're going to do electronics, you're probably going to want to drill a little hole in here in order to put the LED inside to accent up your crystal. Next, you have two pieces here. You're going to have this copper piece facing and then your blade plug. In order to get these out, you're going to take this crystal rod. This is really easy. You just take it, you twist it into the crystal chamber a little bit, and it pops right out. So it makes it easy to pull out your crystal chamber and your heatsink. So the heatsink is actually integrated into the design. You'll unscrew the cup off the top, attach your Tri-Cree LED, and then use your cup with the lens inside to squish it all together. Now if you're using a pixel build, then you can put the plate on top of here, or you may take it off and then put the actual plate on top of here to give yourself some more blade depth. So that's the upper chamber. Use this rod one more time. Just kind of stick it in this little hole and use it to pull it out. Blade plug pops right out. You can see it's a shine through plug, and then the outside of the acrylic is actually a little wider than the centerpiece. So you're going to have an outer ring and also a small inner ring, so to give a nice aesthetic to the look. These two do thread apart, so if you want to make any modifications, you could actually just get a custom metal piece that threads in, for instance. That's your choice. Okay, put that in, put this down. Now, you already know the rest of these things that are in here. For this one, I will be using, for this build, I will be using my copper rings, and the box goes away. The one thing that you don't see in this specific one right now are the tools needed to assemble it. They will be with the rest of the sabers that ship out, so any saber you get will have tools that come with it. This one just didn't have it, so I've got my own tools. First step, I can show you how the saber disassembles. Very easy to remove the end cap. And the saber also comes apart at the waist. So depending on how you want to disassemble it, your choice. Then you have your upper section. Your shroud is held on with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the shroud can slide off. I'm not going to disassemble that now, it's unnecessary. You have your big thumb screw here. This actually helps to hold your crystal chamber in place. So we release it just a little bit until it's a smooth inside and it's not blocking anything. You have your steel ring. This is polished stainless steel, and it is held on with a screw right here that holds on the ears. If you want to do a special heat stain on your emitter, then you can do that with this steel without having to worry about aluminum melting or having any trouble. So for now, we're just going to keep it on. There is no reason to take it off. But you remove the screw and it just simply slides right off. Okay. Your blade retention is right here in a little hidden black spot. Okay. So let's get together with crystal chamber assembly. First step, you're going to grab all the crystal chamber parts. The crystal, we will add on to it later. We don't need to do it just this second. Okay. In order to make sure we don't lose any of our screws, we're going to take this little grub screw and we're going to screw it right into the blade retention slot, just so nothing gets lost. Now if you put your finger in here, you'll be able to tell it screws in quite deeply in order to be more hidden, but you'll feel when it comes through, and then you just back it off a little bit so you can get your blade in there, no problem. Next step is going to be, you take this bar and screw it in. It's really difficult to screw in after the crystal chamber is assembled, so highly recommended that you stick it in first. Next step, you're going to want to get your rods into your your copper crystal chamber. Now, these may be a little bit of a tight fit in order to get the mechanical lock in well. So you're going to want to just get these down in there and press them in nice and tight. You can even take a little bit of a, if you need, if they're a little too tight, you can just take a little small hammer and tap them into place. Okay. Next piece will be taking the lower chamber, and you're going to see that there's a slot here in the copper and in the black. You want these slots to be matched up. So you're going to take, and you'll see the holes. You'll just slide them right into the holes, and the holes fit in nice and easy. They're they fit in much lighter than the lower chamber does. Once you have this together, very cautiously, you can just kind of press this together a bit in order to get the rods really set in to the upper crystal chamber. And now your crystal chamber is, for the most part, assembled. Now what you're going to need to do is you're going to insert this chamber from the top, from your emitter and in. Slide it in. As it comes in, you're going to kind of have a little bit of a alignment here to make sure it gets in there. There we go. And now you can know how the chamber is put in there correctly, because if you look on your heatsink, you'll see a little screw and a hole here and a hole here. You want to match those up. Line it up, and you'll see that the single bar in the back is actually in the very, very back. Before we do that, glad I reminded myself, kept me from extra work. Before you assemble the crystal chamber, you're going to want to assemble the switch block. So if you're doing an install, you're going to want to get this all installed before this all comes in. So you can see that there's a location here for wires to come in from the front and the back, and your switches have a nice fixed location in here. So you're going to put this down, and you're going to see that the two holes in here, 1 and 2, line them up. You're going to want to drop in your one screw, pull your tool, go. Just get the lines so that the screw bites on. Let's get lined up here. Where am I at? There we go. Don't need to make it too tight yet. And we drop the second screw in. These should fit nice and snugly into their little holes. Tighten them down nice and good so they don't come out. And now you have the bar assembled in the back. Now we will go back to what I was doing before, and we slide our chamber back in place, and then again twist it so that they're lined up. The next step is you're going to want to take this little block here, and the block has a little notch there. The hole goes towards the back, and the notch is facing upwards, exactly like this. You're going to set this little bugger in place on top of the copper, and you'll find that there is an exact fitting location for it. And then you're going to take your thumb screw. Thumb screw fits in, and then it engages with the copper. The copper is threaded. Just got to get it all lined up just right. There we go. Remember, don't tighten this too heavily. This screw is aluminum and this is copper, so both semi-soft materials. Just tighten it up nice and good, but don't over tighten it, otherwise you might strip it out. So now we got the top of the chamber retained in there well. We're now going to do the bottom retention for the lower part of the chamber. Now you'll see on the back there is also a very small retention hole right here. You're going to put your little M3 screw in there, get in there right, twist it in. Just get it nice and tight, not too crazy. And now your chamber is held in nice and tight. It won't come loose. Last thing to do here is this thumb screw. You could tighten that in. And then this is an additional piece to tighten up and ensure that your upper chamber is locked in place. So at this point, everything is nice and fixed, nice and tight. Nothing is rattling. What's rattling? Get a little bit of looseness here on the stainless steel ring, but not too bad. Okay, that's done. Next step you can do here is you can drop your blade plug in. Okay, you can see that this screw is going to have a little impact on your blade plug, so you just loosen it up. This can be used as secondary retention for your blade. It just touches it just a little bit. And now you can see the ring that goes around the outside. It has a very nice optic when it's lit up. Okay, so last piece would be the crystal. And this simply you could add a little bit of glue to the bottom on the outside ring, if you like. And then it just flops in and it's located right there. And now you have your chamber. Take that out for now so we don't lose it. Put that back in the box. Set this to the side. Next step, you're going to have your rings. We'll keep this off for the moment. Now you'll see that you have a hole here. You have two sets of holes in the base piece. That's going to depend on how you want to hang your blade. If you're hanging on the left side or the right side, that way when you have it together, you see that the cover techs align to one side or the other. If you want to hang it on your left side of your hip, you're going to want to put you're going to want to use this hole over here for your cover tech. You're going to want to use the hole on the right side. That will keep your chamber exposed. Otherwise, the chamber is then facing inside if you're using this one. This way, it depends on whether you want your chamber to be facing outwards or facing into your leg. I think most people prefer to have it outwards. So if I'm going to do a left-handed version of this one, you're going to take your copper ring, and you'll notice that there are two ways it could fit on. When you put it together, you'll see a large gap here and a small gap here. If you were to flip this around, you're going to have no gap and a large gap on the bottom. So the proper way is this way, where both sides, top and bottom, have a small gap. So this one is held on pretty simply. You simply put down your cover tech, drop in your cylinder head screw, and if you were smart, not like I am, you would already have your tool ready. So let me get the right tool for this one. There we go. Okay, let's try that again. Put that down. Put down your cover tech. And then the screw. Nice and tight. And now your cover tech is locked into place. Next step, see this one, you're not really sure how this attaches. This needs to be glued in, and its placement will be automatic just like the last one. And then the fins themselves will also help to hold this in place. So, move these off to the side. Now, dun dun. Here we go. I'll show you the glue. Just have to get a paper towel. Make sure we stay clean. Okay, so the glue I'm using, it's a 2K epoxy. It's a 2-minute fast set time, and it's a 2-part. This is going to ensure that we have the best hold possible for our parts, because we don't want them popping loose. If you can use super glue or aka CA glue. With metals like aluminum, it doesn't really stick so well, and also it can have some corroding effect on the metals, so you have to be careful with that. So I would suggest you use a 2K epoxy glue instead of your CA glue. And your CA/super glue will also come undone much easier. It doesn't really fix itself very well. You really don't need a lot of glue. You only need little dots here and there. So this is a mixer, so we have part A, part B, equal parts. Now you can also get the ones that are auto mixing or pre-mixed. You can use whatever you want. It's just the best thing to do is this kind of epoxy for the strongest hold you can find. Next step, mix it together. You want to make sure you mix it really thoroughly. Here we go. Just get this mixing a little bit going on. It's properly mixed to ensure that it sets as hard as it possibly can. You've got about 2 minutes working time with this, so we don't want to mix it too long, but we need to make sure it's well mixed. Okay. Now, first thing I like to do is just put a little bit here. Now with this glue, you'll still be able to pop these pieces apart when you really work at it, but we don't want to afford it to slip around too much. Okay, so you're going to find its location here. Go. Use this to hold it up. Okay. Next thing we want to glue down, one of our fins. So you're going to see the fin has a very sloped edge and a more rounded edge. So it's more accurate to have the rounded edge forward. But if you don't like the rounded edge forward, swap them up. It's your choice. You are the Master Jedi Saber builder right now. So the key here is not to use too much. Otherwise you're going to have glue that's popping out everywhere. So we're just going to put down small amount along the bottom and spread it out, because we want to get a nice tight fit, and if it's too much in there, it'll pop out. Okay, that's one. I don't want to mess around too much, because at least this glue is a very quick setting glue. Be very cautious not to get this glue on your fingers, because if you do get it on your fingers, what you'll end up doing is spreading it all around the entire saber if you're not cautious. I don't necessarily like using glue for sabers, but in this case there was really no other way to hold these together. Okay, there's two, and we're going to lock this in place. So we just put it in. There's a nice little groove to locate everything. Boom. What we can do is we can screw this end cap on, and And it should go all the way back and set up along the bottom. One done. Next one. Make sure if you get any glue on your fingers, you wipe it off and you don't get it on the rest of the saber. Same deal, put it in the slot. You can kind of move it back and forth a little bit in order to get it in the right place. There's two. And you're going to want to have something that's going to hold these pieces together. Rubber bands do great. In this case, I'll just be using a little bit of tape. And we got to get moving here so we don't, oh, too late. Okay, so my glue is already set. I can't use it anymore, otherwise I risk doing damage. So I will just tape these down right quick in order to ensure they don't slip around while we prepare some more glue for the next parts. And since this hardens pretty quickly, these parts will be on there pretty solid by the time I mix my next little set. Little dab of glue. Matching dab of glue. Get it mixed. Okay. Same deal as before. Spread a little on the bottom end. Okay. Okay, now we got our glue on. Let's go ahead and release this tape so I can actually put these in place. Got a little bit of over glue here. Just wipe that down. Okay. Put it in place. Do a little back and forth to really get it locked. And then the last one. Same deal. Back and forth to help the connection. Then reset my tape again. And get a little more tape on the other side. Like I said, that rubber bands might be a more effective way. Okay, there we go. Now, the saber is complete. You can still undo this if you want to access your speaker or potentially a recharge port in the bottom. You have the largest possible opening here so the chassis can come out without getting caught. If you don't use the end cap for your chassis, you can also still undo it here. And speaking of chassis, to lock the chassis down, there are two holes. Here and here. They're not threaded. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to put in a grub screw that'll just fit in here. It's an M3 hole, so you can pass through an M3 grub screw, and then the grub screw will then lock into the chassis. So that is the entire assembly for the Starkiller Lightsaber. And there you go. Now, if you get a saber and you want to change where the cover tech is located, it's easy enough to unscrew it. You're able to pop off these. They're not permanently fixed. The epoxy will be very strong, but you're able to get a little screwdriver in between here and pop these off very cautiously, and then you'll be able to rotate the cover tech to the other side. And you'll notice very quickly, as you have touched it and as you've been modifying it or playing with it, that this copper parts will start to change color pretty quickly. So that's the full assembly of the Starkiller Lightsaber. Thank you everybody for watching and for purchasing. And if you would like to buy one and you don't have one, go ahead and go to www.phoenixprops.net and buy away. Thank you very much.